Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great today. Okay, so I'm pretty sure a lot of you remember weeks ago when the US Commission on International Religious Freedom literally accused elements in the Nigerian army and police of colluding, of working together with the Nigerian terrorists in carrying out the genocide and the kidnappings and all the beheadings and all the atrocities they've been carrying out in Nigeria. And of course, you know what the reaction of the officials in government was. They were like, how in the world could they say that about our army and police? And some loyalists of this government were like up in arms, like, why would they do that? But a few other Nigerians, not a few, a lot of other Nigerians were like, we're not surprised. There's no way these terrorists would get away with this or get it so easy or have it so easy if there was no collusion or complicity. And so there's been an argument, understandably, over this. But I think you should already know that the United States of America and a commission of this caliber will not just get out there and make such wide-ranging statements without having that information right. And so what I'm here to do today is to set the record straight for you with 2 video clips that you will never forget for the rest of your lives. Here's the first one.
They knew everything about him. They had done their research. The very day they picked him up, they said, you are Ismail Sahabi.
You are what?
Yes. They said, your uncle is, so they were talking about me.
Special advisor to the president, living in the villa.
He's a big man, he works in the villa, so we are going to get a lot of money. They also told him about my other brother, Dati. He was what he was doing, and they said, so we're going to ask for a lot of money. They kept them there. The first time they said, give us, they told us 25 million. And we thought, okay, we looked around for 25 million and they wanted 3 motorcycles and a lot of drugs. Drugs, a lot of medication, rice, all sorts of things. And we sent it to them. They told us where to go.
You sent it?
Oh yeah, we sent it to them. But at the same time, we also told everybody, imagine in that position, I know just about everybody who was in government, and I could go walk into their offices and ask for sympathy. Please, it's my nephew. They're going to kill him if he's not rescued. And people say, give us the coordinates. And it was easy to get the coordinates.
You gave them?
Yes, we gave them all the coordinates. They will say, they will not spend. They spent 37 days. We spent, all in all, between the first day they were kidnapped and when they were released, we had spent close to 175 million naira. 175 million naira. Eventually they were released. This 175 was made up of about, I think, 120 million in cash in 3 batches. We sent people to them. They gave us directions. In one of the 3 times that they took money, they even ran into some military people who said, you are going in the wrong direction. This is the way to go.
I mean, when the bandits took the money?
Yes.
And then moving to their escape routes?
The people we sent to deliver the money got lost, and they said to the military, we are looking for this type of direction. We've been told to come here, and they said, this is the wrong way to go.
And the military will tell them, okay, take left. Yeah. Take right.
Yes.
This is a serious indictment.
I'm sorry to say this.
Yes.
I regret this, but if you see, when we say things like, there's a system behind this organization, and this is last year. Now, really, what's part of it is when our nephew was released, and we would ask him things like, well, what did they do with all that money? He will tell us. If we sent money, and it gets to them by 6 p.m., by 9 p.m., a whole bunch of their seniors will come, literally take away everything, leave a little bit of money, a little bit of drug, a little bit of medication in the camp where our nephew was held. And
he saw their seniors, I mean.
Oh yeah, people would come and collect this money. And they would tell them, we are just safekeepers. There are bosses, and they have bosses, and they have bosses.
Okay, so that's the first video clip. By the way, every single thing you heard is true, I believe, because a man of this caliber is not going to come out and make statements like this. The guy was working in the villa. I'm talking the presidential villa. And that is the presidential villa under this current administration. He only just resigned, I think it was last year. So he was at the top of the political pyramid in Nigeria. Like he said, he knew pretty much everyone. Okay? This was his nephew who was kidnapped. And this man was right there in the presidency. He called out to every single person that he knew. He knew everyone who mattered. He spoke to them. You would expect that guys will swing into action and within 24, 48 hours, maybe 72 hours max, his nephew will be released from the kidnapper's den. It took 36 whole days. 36. Imagine the fate of the poor Baptist school kidnap victims in Oyo State. No wonder we're approaching the second month and nothing has happened yet. This guy was in the villa. His nephew could not be released. 36 with all their connection. And while they were sending money to the kidnappers, because he said the money was paid in 3 tranches, in one of those tranches that they were going to send to the kidnappers, they reportedly missed their way, the guys who were carrying the money. And then imagine that the military that they ran into was the one telling them, you're going the wrong way. You go this way and go that way and then that way, and then you can fund the terrorists. The military was directing them when they missed their way in the process of going to take ransom money to terrorists in the forest. The same military that is tasked with protecting you, protecting the nation, protecting the territorial integrity of Nigeria, were the ones then directing citizens to where the violators of our human right and territorial integrity were keeping citizens who are held hostage. And not only that, he says, when his nephew was released, he told them that every time they brought money in the night, say the money came around 6 p.m., by say around 9 p.m., the higher-ups, the bosses, the kingpins, the guys who run this cartel, this kidnapping and genocide cartel in Nigeria, they will show up and take almost everything and leave just fractions for the kidnappers who are just errand boys. Leave them with enough drugs and enough to make TikTok videos and show you and flash around some money. All that is just fractions left for them so they can feel good, so you can feed into their sensual ego and make them feel like bosses, like we got power to do anything. But the real guys who are cashing out are the big bosses. And these are the ones that everybody has been asking. How can Nigeria claim they don't know? These guys are definitely known. They have connections in government. That's what everybody is saying. That's why the guy said there is a system behind this. And this system is not difficult. Because can you imagine? He said it was so easy to gather the coordinates. Any Nigerian can be tracked by just your phone. And we have people who make phone calls and do all these things, and you see you can track them. That's when you know that the complicity is too glaring, it's not even hidden. Let's go to the second video so you can understand what mess we have gotten ourselves into in Nigeria.
Then when, some people were kidnapped. One of the people that was kidnapped was a junior brother of a friend of mine. I think they were asking for 50 or 100 million. I'm not quite sure what the ransom figure was. So, everybody put money together gave it to this guy to go and deliver. Our guy was released after the money was delivered. But the person that delivered now came back with a story. He said he had to go through 3 military checkpoints on his way to the rendezvous that was given by the kidnappers. He said, and in each of those checkpoints, they demanded money. He said, by the time we got to the third one, he said, look, these guys will count this money and they will find that it's less because you guys have been collecting. He said, tell them that we were the one that took it.
So the military know they are there.
So when he got to the kidnappers, and of course they counted the money, I think it was missing, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 million, I can't remember. He told them it's the checkpoint people that collected it. He said the kidnapper said, okay, no problem.
Can you break this down?
If I were the guy, I'd be like, how else do you want me to break it down? Can you break this down? How much more do you want to hear? How can I break it down for you? These are Nigerians with addresses. These are not non-entities on the streets. These are reputable Nigerians on live television, across board, telling you things that you could only have imagined in a horror movie. Someone was kidnapped and they were taking ransom money to the kidnappers, which is now becoming a normal thing in Nigeria. As they were taking the ransom money, they ran into 3 different military checkpoints, and that at every checkpoint, the soldiers were taking money from their ransom money. And the guys, understandably, panicked. They were scared, like, if you keep taking this money, by the time we get to these guys, they're going to be like, why is the money not complete? And we might be in trouble. And the soldiers were like, oh, you stop doing that. When you get over there, just tell them that we are the ones who took the money, the ransom money. Sure enough, they got to the kidnappers, and the kidnappers counted the money and found out it was not complete. And they were like, what happened to the money? Oh, the soldiers at the checkpoint, they took the money. The soldiers at the checkpoint? Yes. Okay, don't worry. More like saying, oh, don't worry, those are our guys. We're all working together. So it's okay for them to take the money. Like, this is a country. No, jokes apart, this is a country. Imagine if these videos were AI. Wouldn't it have been better? Because the first time I stumbled on this video, I didn't pay attention. I was like, this is just what it was too much for my brain. But then, now corroborated. It's true. It's real. Just imagine. We're not talking police. We're not talking any other security agency. The military. The ones who take up arms and go to war on behalf of the nation. They are the ones that have now been this compromised. How can anyone in their right senses still think that we have a nation? There is no nation here. And this is why I keep saying to everyone, we have come to the point where I'm not angry anymore. Usually when I make videos like this, I'm very angry. I'm not angry anymore. I have calmed down. I'm now looking for common sense. I'm looking for people who are willing to think, to reach deep down into their souls and ask critical questions. Where are our elders? Where are the socio-cultural organizations? Where are the church leaders? This is the time we need to begin to call on the leadership of this nation. Please come, sit down here. Let's forget about this 2027 for just 1 minute. Can we reason together? Even God tells us, come let us. Can we reason? Can we maybe think about how to pivot away from this thing we are racing to in 2027? Because I'm not seeing any clear on it. The real emergency we have right now is even saving the indigenous peoples whom we don't know if they will even survive to 2027. If these terrorists are moving at the rate they are going, taking over territories, and we now see evidences of our military being this heavily compromised, what territories do you think will be left by 2027? And then who goes to vote in 2027? These are just commonsensical questions that we need to start asking. I mean, at some point, we just have to be human. Nations are supposed to partner with Nigeria to combat terrorism. America is supposed to be spending hundreds of millions on weapons to Nigeria to combat terrorism. And yet, we see stories like this coming out where the military that is supposed to work together with the US is so madly compromised. And rather than deal with this rot on the inside, the regime is more interested in spending more millions in America to whitewash this rot, this decay, this nauseating mess that has become an eyesore. How can anyone explain this? Guys, read my lips. We are right at the edge of a cliff. All it takes to topple over is not even a push. It's just a little blow. And everything goes this way into abyss. We need help. Desperately need help. And we need it like the day before yesterday.
Talking about Operation Safe Corridor. So many people have asked that question, why do we need to rehabilitate criminals? They all should be killed. Because they kill people. Well, that may make sense. But even in the Bible, we heard about the prodigal son. If there was not that window for the man to come back, would they have come back? So the point is that these are Nigerians, mostly. And it's important for us to give them that window to repent if they want to, rather than pushing them to the extreme to say, okay, it's either we kill you or you continue with the adventure. I think it's important for us to make people understand, especially in the National Assembly, because as we speak now, everything about safe corridor is being driven by defense headquarters. And there's no part of the budget that says, okay, you should run Operation Safe Corridor. So, our honorable there, I'm only speaking to you to
kai me yasa kake haka ne Aminu kai wannan ma me yasa kake haka ne Aminu me yasa kake haka ne a sun tubo agima ne
obodo kwesịrị zu Nigeria lekwa Nigeria ma dosa ya Chineke nna dị ngozi onye ọbụla na-ekpe ekpere ka Nigeria wee wuru ofu nna nke bridge ndị dị etu a wee laa ha n'iyi Chineke nna kiwe biko bịa ka iwe kpọọ ha ọkụ kpọọ ha ọkụ kpọọ ezinụlọ ha ọkụ